I'm going to do a quick 1 minute on me. I don't have a degree in collaboration. I'm not professing to be good at it. I'm conscious of the need to do it, and I try to do it, and I know when I don't do it, and I know when I don't want to do it, and there's a sort of a difference. And I think we can all, hopefully by the end of what I'm about to go through, you'll all see bits of yourselves in some of that. So I've been around the block. I'm an old git. I've been there and done it. I've been in property, facilities, workplace. There's another one that came out this afternoon. Shared services. I quite like the idea of us all working in shared services. Where's that? What's that mean in the future? I've worked for a big Canadian insurance company, EDS, Electronic Data Services, and Dell Computers during the late 90s and 2000s, when just incidentally Dell was growing at 50% a year, which means everybody at this year's Christmas do was not there last year. Half the people at this year's Christmas do were not in the company last year. That's the sort of size of growth that we were coping with. And my boss used to tell me, he was based in Austin in Texas, I'm not in real estate, I'm in the capacity business. And that's relevant for some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in a second. When I left Dell, I I joined a startup company, Corporate Property Advisors, which got bought out a couple of years ago by EC Harris. And at that time, I decided to not go to EC Harris, and I joined DX, who were my primary client at that time. And I've been at DX ever since. During that time as a consultant, this is fantastic, being able to see that, so I don't need to turn around and read that. God, I do look good on there, don't I? Consultancy assignments I've had with O2. I did location strategy work with O2. Amazon, we all know household names. I was so lucky when we started up that company that lots and lots of people wanted to come and work with us, for us, find out about us. Why would we all leave big cosy jobs? And there was 5 of us that started it up. There was myself, the guy from Dell, the guy from BP, the guy from Reuters that moved to Canary Wharf, and the guy from Cable and Wireless. So, all running big global real estate functions, and we gave all that lot up and started this little consultancy practice. So you can see that I've done a few things with lots of different companies and been involved in some fantastic projects. The thing that I would just say to everybody, if any of you are currently working on things of this sort of scale, and when I talk about scale, I'm talking about size, geography, location, you're currently living through the good old days. And unfortunately, you don't realise they're the good old days until they stop. So if you're flying out to this place and that place and that place right now, stop and smell the coffee, as they say, because it doesn't last forever. And I was talking to somebody at the lunch break about, now I don't fly to all those places. I'm actually paying to go to those places as a tourist. And it kind of really grates with me that I've got to do that sort of thing. And I'm just going to do a quick intro into DX, because that puts into context my view on collaboration. And I will get to collaboration, I promise. Anybody recognise these vehicles? No, that's a no, isn't it? Yes, some of you do. Well, I can guarantee that by the weekend you will all have seen one of these vehicles, because they're up and down the motorways, and now you've seen them, you go, oh, that's where that guy works. Yeah. And I'm conscious there's potentially a couple of people from Royal Mail in the room. So I'm not going to patronise Royal Mail, but we want to be a bit like Royal Mail in some of the things that we do, and we don't want to be a bit like Royal Mail in lots of the other things we do. I'm not going to read all the stats there, other than to say that we floated on the stock exchange a couple of years ago now, which is really why I joined the company, because I knew that was going to happen. Thought it would introduce some new investment, which indeed it has done. And I am busy trying to consolidate a couple of different estates. So all the things that we've heard today and all the graphs and all that sort of stuff are very, very relevant to me. I'm not going to put graphs and stats and data and numbers up. It's far too late in the afternoon for that. So I'm going to try and sort of glimpse through some of that stuff. That's our network. You can see that we're everywhere in the UK. In addition to these 130 dots that are on the map, we've got about 4,000 exchanges. And those of you that have been around long enough will know that DX Exchange was the exchange system that does the inland revenue. We do passports, we do all the land registry documentation. So in the good old days before technology, which is why this particular part of our business is in decline, we did all of the exchanges, solicitor to solicitor, when you had to get signatures on documents, etc. So that's where the DX Exchange is sort of born out of. That's in decline, so we went out and we bought a freight company called Knight Freight, and they enable us to have immediate access to what we hope, and in fact it's proving to be, is a growing market, which is our ability to buy anything from that to this on the internet and want it and expect it to be delivered tomorrow. And we had our record October, November and December, and the industry had its record January just going, because we all just are doing it online and online and online. So that's where we hope our growth is going to be. I'm not going to talk about that because I want to get to the collaboration bit, other than to say the key success factor for the company is network and site consolidation. Clearly at the minute we've got a couple of different networks, we've got 2 different types of vehicles following each other up and down the motorway. As quick as we can close one of those and go to what we call a COCO site, a co-located site, we can have one truck just going to all of those points on the map, and therefore and it costs about 100 grand a year just in fuel to have a 7.5 ton vehicle on the road. So you only need to save 10 of them, and £1 million savings in the context of some of the organisations and some of the skyscrapes and all that sort of stuff that we've seen today doesn't mean a huge amount. But £1 million to my company is a big chunk of money. You know, if you wanted to buy one of those on the internet, you'll pay 10 quid. Well, I don't even know what it is. You'll pay 10 quid for it, but you wouldn't be prepared to pay more than 50p to have it delivered. You know, we're talking about very, very high volume, very, very low margin. So if I thought I could wave a magic wand and save £1 million with my boss, he'd think I was a hero. So it's really, really low cost, really low margins in everything that we do. And I've forgotten the building that the chap put up on, was it building 22? That's our head office. That was the one that's falling down and got no catering and all that sort of stuff. It's that's kind of where we are. And as if by magic, this is what we do. We do lots of big parcels. We do lots of small parcels. So those of you that have got spectacles on should have gone to Specsavers and all that sort of stuff. Every morning we have a white van going up and down every high street, delivering the glasses that you've put a prescription in the day before. We deliver to Specsavers early the following morning, so that you can go and pick up your glasses that are ready within 24 hours. We'll deliver them to home. We do all that sort of stuff. We do lots of pharmaceutical stuff. So if you put a prescription in, it'll be here tomorrow. The chances are we've delivered it. And passports, and all we do is deliver them. We don't process them, so don't moan at me if your passport's late. This facility down here, we've just acquired, or just in the process of acquiring, nearly 50 acres of land in the middle of nowhere in the West Midlands. We're hopefully going to get planning consent to put 400,000 square foot whacking great big shed on it, which is taking up a lot of my time at the minute. So lots of investment going into the company. I'm now going to talk about collaboration. All right. You saw on the my title, it's got the procurement word in it. So I was the guy that put my hand up to say I'm not a procurement specialist. I just happen to be responsible for procurement because I seem to be a commercially aware, astute person at the interview. And they gave me procurement to help entice me out of the consultancy role that I was in, because they couldn't afford to pay me just to do the real estate stuff. So to justify my huge salary, they said, we've got to give you more stuff to do, and they gave me procurement. So I've now got procurement. I've just recruited a procurement manager that is going to take us to the next level. And it was interesting listening to the procurement story this afternoon about it seemed to have stemmed out facilities and real estate. And certainly and I've interviewed 20 procurement managers, and they've all been procuring nuts and bolts and pencils and paper and carpet tiles and toilet rolls and all this sort of stuff. And what I'm trying to do is to drag it out of the facilities sort of arena, where I've got a couple of very competent facilities procurement people, and drag it into all that fleet that I've just shown you pictures of. The people that are doing the deals on our big trucks and our double-deck trucks are the transport team. The guys that are buying all of our technology are the IT techies. So guess what they want? Knobs and whistles. They don't want commercial, they don't want reciprocal trading agreements, they don't want low cost, they want knobs and whistles sort of stuff. So I've just recruited what I hope will be a high caliber procurement person to take procurement up to that next level. And I'm not talking about second or third generation, I'm talking about first generation scope to make those sorts of savings first time round in the rest of the organisation. A quick emotional history. This is the world according to me. If I'm patronising anybody, I apologise for it, because I know I will. This is how I see FM and corporate real estate, and I'm going to call corporate real estate property. So let's just, it's corporate real estate is property. We all know what we mean. It's not the FM bit. Yeah. In the 1980s, and I've been around long enough to know, I started working in the 1980s, and in the 1980s, FM I think there was AFM or IFM or IFM. Sort of started off, and everybody started to think, well, what's this FM bit? And those of you that were around then would know that the chartered surveyors in this world, I know there's somebody from RICS here, and I promise not to point you out, and she's clearly not old enough to know, but back in those days, the chartered surveyor industry, the surveyors poo-pooed FM as being the people who manage the toilet cleaning contract and all that sort of good stuff. So, it's nothing to do with us, absolutely nothing to do with us. And then in the 90s, we hit a little recession. And this is the world according to me. And suddenly, FM became a potential new revenue income stream that all of the chartered surveyors practices thought, actually, we could include that as part of our managing agent, a tenant representation. We can get involved with it, and sort of started to adopt it and define it and so on and so on. And then they came out of recession, and suddenly it was all about the deal and getting big fees, and it was facilities back to toilets and don't want to know if we're above and beyond all that sort of good stuff. But now, with the BIFM and with the other financial sort of facilities institutions, and indeed with RICS itself, with RICS itself, recognising that facilities is a big chunk of what we all do, we're starting to get second or first generation qualified people that can do both, that think about it being the same thing. And the little game I was going to get to play with you was for those of you that are in property. I'll step back in case I walk off the stage, that were in property. I wanted you to go and find a facilities manager and tell them what you think the difference is between property and facilities without insulting them, all right? Because it's actually a difficult thing to do. Do you think it's a difficult thing to do? It sounds like it'd be easy, but I think it's actually a difficult thing to do. And I am both. And I had a conversation with the lady from RICS about my accreditations and so on and so on. And I genuinely think there's a divide there. And how can we, as an industry, start to collaborate if we can't define our industry collectively together and recognise that we're all there for the same goal, the same ends, which is workplace, property, facilities, management of the whole. If you take a full life cycle of a building, in fact, if I had a Nobo board, I would scribble this on a board. If you take a 10-year lease in a building, this bit at that end, it's your surveyors doing the deal, doing the location strategy, finding the building. They'll go and find a building. They'll then go and specify a contract, a fit out, a specification, and all that sort of good stuff. They may or may not decide to speak to the facilities guys. But what tends to happen, or tended to happen, is that they will then hand the keys over to the facilities people and say, off you go, see you in 10 years when the lease expires, sort of stuff. Now we're starting to see a bit of collaboration in that sort of area, and things are starting to improve. And certainly in the projects that I run, our facilities manager is in every single project, every single capital project that we do. We're doing lots of them, as is my procurement team. And there was a chap somewhere in the middle there asked a question about, with his arms folded until he got the microphone, how can procurement, shouldn't the real estate, and I'm not taking the mickey out of whoever the gentleman was, but the question was along the lines of, shouldn't the real estate facilities people be driving it, not procurement? My view is it's all the same thing, and it has to be the same thing. And I think the quicker that we can come together to bring that together, the better we will be in a position as an industry to collaborate with the others. Yeah, because it's the others against all of us. And if we're still having those little arguments amongst ourselves as to what turf war is what, then we're in serious trouble. And I'm now going to get to, I've been attending these sorts of do's. Is this a do? Not a great do, is it, if it's a do? There's no music, there's no dancing. I've been attending these sorts of events for 20 odd years. And there's always a section in them in how do we elevate the people in the room to have more influence in our corporation. That's the same question. There's 10 different ways of asking the same question. And you can now go on courses that will help you do this. Yeah, will help you, whichever way you want to say it, will help elevate the FM or the corporate real estate function to board level. And I think we've got a really big opportunity coming up with collaboration because of some of the stuff that we talked about today. And And I've put this pie chart in because I discovered last night how to do a pie chart. And I thought it was about time I put a chart in. I don't know what it means. The numbers are immaterial. The most important thing here is the bits in between. And you'll see how I've separated the slices of the pie in a three-dimensional sort of context to show that there are gaps between each of the bits. Now for me, these top two in particular, but potentially the top three, we've got to be seen as one. You know, if everybody below that line thinks that we're all fighting and arguing with ourselves, they're never going to want to entertain collaboration. And we've all been in meetings with those top three people, and depending on whose idea that project is, you know, if it's the property guy's idea, the property guy thinks it's a fantastic idea, and the others will sit there with their arms crossed, in no position to collaborate. And it's not until those functions come together to help collaborate with everybody else that I think we can actually take a march and start to do some of the stuff that was on the previous slide about how can we elevate ourselves in an organisation. And I think it's really, really important that if you just think about all these other people, and this can be a project, it can be the running of a building, it can be a 10-year life cycle of a building, it's the bits in between. There is nobody else that joins all these bits in between properly and well. Yeah? And I think if that to me is our opportunity. Yeah, to actually go to each of the operations team, not with a hidden agenda about we want to do, but to actually try and fill all these gaps between the people. I know it's really easy for me to stand up here and say, well, that's the thing to do, but I'm sure you can all sit and recite a project that you've worked on where there may be 4 or 5, 10 different people have come from different parts of the organisation, and the first thing you do is you all sit there like that, and it's not until you end up with a common goal that you realise you know, you're all in this together, and you can start to collaborate. And if you look at really successful organisations, and you know, we can always the Googles and those sorts of things, their ability to mobilise a team with a central common theme immediately is key to the success. Dell used to do it. They probably still do it, but certainly in the 2000s, the noughties, they used to be able to mobilise a team really, really quickly. Everybody's together, no hidden. You know, the common denominator is the company. You know, it's the same common denominator for everybody on that team. And the quicker that we, I mean, even HR. You know, you would think that HR would be the people that are going to do that sort of stuff. HR, I've never met any HR folks in. I've never met such a bunch of shit in all my life. No, I've never met such a politically motivated group of people than HR. You know, if it's a great idea, it's their idea. Let them think it's their idea. And you'll be amazed at how much cooperation that you will get if you let everybody start to think. If you go on any of these sort of management guru courses about empathy and sympathy and all that sort of, if you can get people that you're working with to think that all the good ideas are their ideas, and you can make them feel good, then you will start to get not just collaborated with, but you will actually start to be sought out. And you will start to elevate up the food chain towards that board that we all sort of strive towards. So that to me, I know it's a pretty picture of a pie chart, and I'm really pleased, and I can't wait to get home and show my son that I've done a pie chart. But to me, it's these bits in between are the bits that are not in our job description, they're not in anybody else's job description. But I think we are in a really good position to be able to fill all those gaps. So I think we need to think differently, and I've got a couple of anecdotes for some of these things, rather than just sort of read them all out. You know, I think we need to be, and we means the property people and the facilities people. Let's start to work together more. Let's start to enjoy successes more. Let's stop having those hidden agendas. Let's get the facilities people right on day one of a project. You know, don't wait until we've all the good bit, the sexy bits done, and we're going to get, where do you want the broom cupboard? Yeah, let's get them involved right at the very, very beginning. Let's start putting the budgets together, and let's start to share a collective sort of success. So I think we've got to do things differently. Otherwise, we'll always just be either the facilities team or the property team, and we will have lost all those other opportunities because somebody else is going to take it. And if we don't take it, I think it will be IT, because IT is moving faster, moving faster forward further. Yeah, it's moving further forward faster than we are capable of doing if we can't collaborate with ourselves as step one. And if we're going to collaborate with anybody, if those of you that are in real estate or facilities, go and spend time with IT. I'm going to talk to the organisers of this event. I think it would be really, really good for this audience if we had an IT director from a previous company, another big company, come and talk to us as a group of workplace facilities, property people about their challenges and what they think are going forward. Because if we can't keep up with them, we're going to get left behind, and shared services will become part of a supply chain for shared services, rather than being the nucleus of shared services. Is my view. Have a holistic approach. Real estate guys, and I'm sure there are brokers in the room, there are agents in the room, there are people who sell real estate services, etc. The thing that I would say to you is, and I'll give you a couple of anecdotes. When I was at Dell, I was the director for EMEA, Europe, Middle East and Africa, and I was in just about every country. So I was trying to do deals and acquisitions. We were opening up a call centre every quarter for 2,000 people. That's a lot of space. Literally every quarter we were opening up these call centres. And I couldn't identify one broker that had the geographical reach in every one of our locations. So I went to 2 companies. I won't mention their names, but they were big corporate organisations who you would all know. And that means me and the guy from CBRE and the guy from Cushman's, sat in a room and we agreed where they had their strengths and their weaknesses, and we worked out what the map of Europe, Middle East and Africa looked like. So if I had an assignment in Denmark, I would go to that guy, and if I had one in Belgium, I would go to that guy. And that was all agreed, and they went back and reported them. What actually happened in reality was every time I got a job in Belgium his? Every time I got a job in Belgium, I went to him. This guy tried to pinch the transaction. This guy was after the fee. And I then found I spent most of the next year spending more of my time arguing about who was going to get what fee and what introduction. And what happened was, if I'd give them a brief that we need to find 60,000 square feet in Brussels, this guy, I'm assuming he's going to go out and do it. This guy's run off with the brief and gone to the market, and suddenly we've got 2 big corporations that are after the same bit of space, and we ended up competing with ourselves. So the price was going up and all that sort of silly stuff. So I stopped that. I'm a bit slow. It took me all year to come to the conclusion that I ought to stop that, but I did stop it. And I think I threw them both out. But that's because they could only focus on the fee. That's all they were worried about is the deal, and not taking that sort of long-term view. We talked today about workplace and workspace and facilities and all those other sort of words. We are the common denominator, I think, in the people in this room doing the jobs that we do. We are the ones. Is somebody watching the time? Because I could stand up here all day. 2? No, there's only one of me, am I? 2 minutes. Right, I'll go really quick. I forgot where did I get to? Yeah, so workplace, all those other buzzwords. I think that we are the common denominator, and I promise not to say it again. But I genuinely think that we are the people that can deliver that extra collaboration and actually turn everything that the HR. HR cannot do the things that HR want to do in terms of. And I've been talking to recruitment companies recently. They're not called recruitment managers anymore. They're called talent identification officers, talent retention officers. Honest to God, I'm getting too old for this. Some of the jargon that's out there. So I think we need, if we just go back on the next project and try and get on with everybody and collaborate with everybody, people will see a marked difference. And before you know it, you'll be invited to the party a lot more than you ever would have done before. Finally, that's good timing then, everyone, finally. The F word, fees, it goes back to my European story. These 2 gentlemen in these 2 organisations, every conversation would start with, what's the fee? Yeah, and as a corporate occupier, it irritates the life out of me and my superiors and my bosses. Let's talk about the fee when we've got the job sorted out and all that sort of good stuff. Particularly if you on that procurement timeline, we're talking about relationships. Not about over on the left-hand side here, we had transactions, transaction-led, etc., etc. If you want a long-term relationship, then let's not keep talking about the fee all the time. Be creative. Find important things that are difficult for us to do and do them quicker, faster, better, cheaper than we can do. And that even means things like, we've managing procurement, I'm also responsible for compliance within procurement. So nobody, absolutely nobody in any part of the company can order an envelope, a box, a lorry, a truck, a tyre, a bit of maintenance without it coming through my procurement team and getting a purchase order number. And my guys are making sure that all of that happens. For somebody to get a purchase order number, it means they've got to be on our system. So if you're a supplier, one of the questions that you should be asking is, how do we make it easy for you to do business with us? Because sometimes a differentiator between using Company A and Company B is Company B are not on our system. And to get them on our system means we've got to vet them, we've got to pre-qual them, put them on the system, and they will lose the business. So right up front, let's get that one sort of out the way, all that sort of admin type thing. That's that route of least resistance for us to do. This is if I remembered this, isn't it? Take a long-term view on everything we do. Make us look good. Us meaning the corporate, that is genuinely not a joke. I always tell my suppliers and my service partners that they need to make me look good. And that doesn't mean providing me with a CBRE report that's got 20 pages of gumph on how great a job they've done. It's on identifying the things that I need to get in front of my board approval, for approval, and giving me that rather than me having to decipher it out of a 20-page report. So find out where I'm taking my work to my bosses, my supply chain up front. And then my best tip to finish. If you're only ever going to be a property manager, you'll only ever just be a property manager. And if you really do want to get up to the board and start influencing business, then you've got to think between those lines. Right? And I think I've overdone my 2 minutes, haven't I? Yeah. Thank you very much.